Reporting for 88.1 FM The Start, I'm Joe Ledger. With the Chicago Bears entering the season with a new era of coaching and Mark Trestman, the hopes were high to create an offense that the city has never seen before. From the start, it appeared that the city's prayers were answered for an elite offense. In Week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Chicago Bears were able to overcome a game that no one gave them a chance to win due to the new offense. Jay Cutler and crew flourished right off the bat in Trestman's new scheme to give the Bears a change of scenery and also a 24-21 win. Cutler completed 21 out of his 33 passes and threw for 2 touchdowns and a pick. Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall picked up right where they left off from last year. Marshall caught 8 passes for 104 yards and a touchdown. Jay also connected with his new offensive threat, the Black Unicorn, aka Martellus Bennett, for 3 receptions for 49 yards and caught his first TD pass of the year.
2nd and 7. Cutler from the pocket, back in the end zone, and the ball is caught for a touchdown. Martellus Bennett.
In the Bears' impressive Week 1 performance, they continued their great offensive production against NFC North rivals in the Minnesota Vikings. Jay Cutler led his newly acclaimed offense to a fourth-quarter comeback trailing by a touchdown with 3 minutes and 15 seconds left in the game to get a 31-30 win over the Vikings. Jay Cutler was able to have an above-average game despite throwing 2 interceptions. Cutler threw for 3 touchdowns, 1 to Brandon Marshall and 2 to Martellus Bennett.
Cutler out of the shotgun inside the 2 on 3rd and goal. Touchdown, Martellus Bennett.
The most important touchdown was, of course, to the Black Unicorn with 16 seconds left in the game to essentially seal the game after the Vikings would fumble on the receiving end of the Bears kickoff. The Bears would go 2-0 on the season and would travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers on Sunday Night Football for Week 3. In the Bears' first primetime game on Sunday night against the Steelers, the team looked to have both sides of the ball clicking all game, especially the defense. The defense would force 5 turnovers in the game against the Steelers to get a 40-23 win. Major Wright and Chris Conte were able to pick off Ben Roethlisberger, and Julius Peppers, James Anderson, and Henry Melton were able to recover the forced fumbles for the Bears. After Cutler threw the go-ahead touchdown to Earl Bennett, the next drive consisted of Roethlisberger fumbling the ball and Peppers picking it up to score the game's final touchdown.
And Roethlisberger in trouble and the ball comes loose again. Peppers comes up with it. Julius Peppers with an escort to the end zone. Touchdown.
Granted, the Bears improved to 3-0 for the season, the injury bug started early for the Bears, losing Pro Bowl defensive tackle Henry Melton for the year. In the Bears' second road game of the season in Week 4, the Bears traveled to Detroit in hopes to get a win. Cutler struggled in this game, throwing 3 interceptions and only 2 touchdowns. Matt Forte did have a good game rushing the ball. Forte rushed for 95 yards and a touchdown. He couldn't, however, keep up with the newly acquired Lions running back Reggie Bush, who torched the Bears for 139 yards on the ground. After the game looking far out of reach for the Bears, trailing 30-13 at the half, the Bears were able to outscore the Lions in the second half 19-10, but still fell short in their final score of 40-32. Both teams after this game would become 3-1 for a 2-way split for the division lead.
It's a team loss. We've got to move forward. And we've got to do that and start tomorrow, get back to work and getting on the next game.
In Week 5, the Bears would be back at Soldier Field to host the New Orleans Saints after going 1-1 on their 2-game road trip. In facing a Saints team that was looking to keep their undefeated record alive, the Bears would struggle to keep up, losing 26-18. Even with the Bears losing, the offense in the passing game would still put up impressive numbers. Jay Cutler threw for 358 yards and threw for 2 touchdowns. The real story for the Bears on the offensive side was second-year wideout Alshon Jeffrey having a record-setting day for the Bears, catching 10 passes for 218 yards and a touchdown.
It's 2nd down and 2. A lot of traffic and Jeffrey left alone for the touchdown.
This performance by Jeffrey would begin to silence his critics carrying over from last year. Going into Week 6, the Bears, being at 3-2 to start the season, would host the winless New York Giants on Thursday Night Football. This game turned out to be another performance where both sides of the ball would click on all cylinders. The offense did just enough to keep the Bears in the game. Jay Cutler was able to connect with Brandon Marshall 9 times, with 2 of those being for touchdowns. The defense would intercept Eli Manning 3 times in the game, 1 by Zachary Bowman and 2 by Tim Jennings that counted for a pick 6, and the other that ended a potential comeback drive for the Giants in the 4th quarter.
First down there at the 45. Eli comes up and throws it up right to the corner. Tim Jennings hit 6. Touchdown. Play action. Manning fires down the middle, and it's intercepted by Jennings.
The Bears would go to 4-2 en route to play the Washington Redskins in the nation's capital for Week 7. With the Bears looking to add to the win column against the Redskins, they would end up having to add to a column that wouldn't be good at all. The Bears would lose starting QB Jay Cutler to a severe groin injury that occurred in the second quarter, and would also lose their captain on the defense in Lance Briggs to a shoulder injury. Cutler would not return to the game as the Bears would have to look to veteran backup QB Josh McCown. With the Bears trying to overcome the loss of Cutler, McCown would be able to keep the Bears in the game despite coming in cold. The most important reason why the Bears were able to play a close game with the Redskins was running back Matt Forte.
Handoff to Matt Forte, and he hurdles his way into the end zone for a Bears touchdown. Inside handoff to Forte, and he picks up a first down and more. Forte still going. Inside the 10, to the end zone. Touchdown, 50 yards, Matt Forte. Up the middle, it's Forte, and he's in for a touchdown.
Despite losing 45-41, Forte was able to rush for 91 yards and score 3 touchdowns. With the Bears offense doing everything it could to keep the game close, the defense, however, would struggle without Briggs against RG3 and the run game. The Bears would give up a total of 209 yards on the ground and 298 yards in the air. In this loss, this would be the start of what would look to be an interesting journey without the Bears captains on both sides of the ball. In having a bye week in Week 8, the Bears at 5-3 would travel to Green Bay to somehow muster out a win without Cutler and Briggs. The Bears defense would look to be in trouble going into the game considering their defensive problems in their previous game against the Redskins. Aaron Rodgers was licking his chops to finally get a chance to play this Bears defense. Little did he know his time would be cut short. Aaron Rodgers would go down with a shoulder injury early in the first quarter on a sack from Shane McClellan. The Bears defense would catch a break knowing that Rodgers would not come back and would have the opportunity to defend against backup QB Seneca Wallace for the Packers. The Bears defense would struggle against the run, giving up 199 yards. However, Josh McCown would surprise all by having as good of a game that any backup QB could have.
McCown able to get it away to Marshall. Did he catch it inbounds? Called a touchdown. Jeffries down at the bottom of the screen. One-on-one. McCown goes that way for Alshon Jeffrey. Did he hang on? Steps down. He's in. Touchdown, Chicago.
McCown was able to throw for 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Marshall would have 7 catches for 170 yards and 1 touchdown. Matt Forte would have a stellar performance on the ground, rushing for 125 yards and 1 touchdown. The Bears would beat the Packers 27-20. Mark Trestman would get his first win against the Packers as Bears head coach. He would also get the first win against the Packers in the last 6 meetings. Coming off a divisional win against the Packers, the Bears will look to avoid a season sweep against the Lions. With Cutler ruled out for a month after the Redskins game, he announced that he felt fine and would start against the Lions. Jay Cutler looked to have been 100% since the injury after the first half. However, it would just so happen that Cutler would suffer a high ankle sprain later in the game. Cutler would try to play through the injury, but from watching him on the field, it was easy to tell that he could no longer be effective. Cutler finished the day completing 21 out of his 40 attempts and threw for 250 yards as well as a touchdown and a pick. The Bears would look again to call in backup QB Josh McCown to try to get the win.
McCown on 3rd down. Steps up. Now he throws. End zone. Brandon Marshall's got it. Touchdown.
McCown would hook up with Brandon Marshall for a touchdown on the Bears' last offensive possession of the game. The Bears would trail 21-19 and would attempt a 2-point conversion. The Bears would not convert on the first attempt due to an incomplete pass, but the Bears caught a break on a roughing the passer penalty that allowed for them to try again. Unfortunately, the Bears would not convert on the second attempt either, falling to the Lions for the second time this season. Not only did the Bears lose, but the Bears yet again also lost another defensive playmaker in Charles Tillman to a torn tricep and would be placed on IR with the small possibility of coming back. In Week 11, the Bears would host the Super Bowl champions of last season in the Baltimore Ravens. With the Bears eager to get back on the winning track, they would go down 10-0 in the first quarter. The game, however, would be delayed an hour and 53 minutes due to severe weather, which gave both teams a break. The Bears would come out of the delay scoring 13 points and would trail the Ravens only by 4 going into the half. The Bears would score on a 14-yard touchdown pass from Josh McCown to Matt Forte to give the Bears a 20-17 lead before the Ravens would tie the game at 20 with a field goal to send it into overtime. In overtime, Josh McCown threw a key pass caught by Martellus Bennett that would essentially set up the great field goal position for Robbie Gould in overtime.
Here's the kick on the way, and the kick is good, they say, and it was close.
Robbie Gould connected on a 38-yard field goal in overtime that gave the Bears a 23-20 win over the Ravens for the game that lasted well over 5 hours. The Bears would improve to 6-4 and would travel to St. Louis to try to keep their playoff hopes alive. With the Bears coming off an overtime win against the Ravens, they would look to improve their record against the St. Louis Rams with backup Josh McCown still in control with Cutler's return uncertain. The Bears' defensive struggles would still continue, giving up 258 rushing yards to the Rams. The Bears' defense would allow 3 players to have 60-plus rushing yards in the game. With the Bears' defense continuing to let opposing offenses do whatever they please on them, the other side of the ball for the Bears still put up impressive numbers through the air. Josh McCown went 36 for 47 and threw for 352 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. Brandon Marshall had a big day, catching 10 passes for 1 touchdown. Even though the Bears' offense continues to flourish under Mark Trestman's new offensive scheme, the Bears lost a lopsided game 42-21 to the Rams. Despite the Bears losing, they would travel to Minnesota and hope to keep up with the Lions for the playoff race in the division. In Week 13, the Bears will look to try to get a win, going up against Purple Jesus and the Vikings at Mall of America Field in Minnesota. The Vikings, who have struggled at the quarterback position all season, did just that early in the game. Christian Ponder, who started the game for the Vikings, would be taken out of the game due to an apparent concussion that was caused by Shane McClellan after sacking Ponder. With Ponder out, the Bears would look to face backup quarterback for the Vikings and Matt Castle. The Bears' defense would struggle all game against Castle, while the offense continued to keep the Bears' playoff hopes alive like they have all season. Josh McCown continued his great play as Bears quarterback, completing 23 out of his 36 passes, throwing for 355 yards and 2 touchdowns. Matt Forte also had a great performance, rushing the ball for 120 yards. However, the big story of the game for the Bears on offense was Alshon Jeffrey. Jeffrey broke his own record for the single-game record for receiving yards of 218 as a Bear that he set in Week 5 against the Saints. In the game, Jeffrey caught 12 receptions for 249 yards and grabbed 2 touchdowns.
Up fake by McCown, and it throws down the middle to Jeffrey, and he's got it. And one man to beat for Alshon Jeffrey, and he will get into the end zone. No penalty flags on the play. An 80-yard touchdown strike. On 3rd down, McCown steps up and again looking for Jeffrey. And did he catch it inbounds? It didn't look. They call it a touchdown.
Jeffrey and McCown would bail out the Bears' defense until the Vikings' offense would convert on a 4th down and 11 to come back and tie the game to go into overtime. With all scores tied at 20 in overtime, the Bears would look to have caught a break when the 39-yard field goal attempt from Brian Walsh was nullified due to a face mask penalty. The Vikings would move back 15 yards and attempt a 57-yarder that would be no good. The Bears would seem to have a golden opportunity to win the game in overtime, but with a questionable coaching decision by Mark Trestman, he decided to have Robbie Gould kick on 2nd down and 7 from the Vikings' 29-yard line. Robbie Gould would be stalled by timeouts and would miss the potential game winner from 47 yards out. Minnesota would then get the ball back, and Brian Walsh would make the 34-yard field goal to get the 23-20 win in overtime against the Bears. With a wild ending, the Bears would fall to 6-6 and see the door shutting fast on their playoff hopes. With the window closing fast for the Bears' playoff chances this season, they will have to win out for the rest of the season, hoping to get help. They will have to take it one game at a time. The Bears will have to start by getting prepared for the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night at Soldier Field. Reporting for 88.1 FM The Start, I'm Joe Ledger.